So today's workshop will explore how youth entrepreneurship policies can support further young women in innovating and scaling up their businesses. We will have some presentations, some case studies, and also time for discussion. Now, to go back to the 2 points I mentioned before, when it comes to access to finance, the European Commission has been supporting women entrepreneurs under the so-called EASY microfinance. It is estimated that around 30% of the beneficiaries of this product were women. And we continue to do so with basically the same product of microfinance under the InvestEU facility. Moreover, as we stated in the European Gender Equality Strategy 2020-2025, the Commission intends to promote through InvestEU the presence of women also in decision-making position in private equity and venture capital funds, and to support funds that invest in gender-diversified portfolios. The European Investment Bank Group, as the main implementing partner of the InvestEU program, is making sure that a significant percentage of all equity financial intermediaries will follow gender criteria. This is expected in turn to increase the funding flowing to women entrepreneurs. On networking, second point I mentioned before, we have been funding several initiatives as well. For example, the Better Incubation Project. YEPA actually is one of these initiatives and probably a bit more interactive and lively than average. In the European Commission, I'm responsible also about the social economy, an economy, let's say, driven by dialogue. And as such, we also strive towards making the social economy more inclusive and diverse, including through encouraging women entrepreneurship. And thanks with our collaboration with the OECD, we actually regularly publish analysis on what does and does not work on the ground in the field of women entrepreneurship. This is in a report called The Missing Entrepreneurs, and the next one is going to be published in November. More globally, there is also a need to create a simplified and enabling environment for all SMEs that operate in the single market. SMEs have been disproportionately affected by the sequence of crises in the past years. Representing 99% of Europe's businesses, they are essential drivers of Europe's economic competitiveness. Therefore, we need to support these enterprises and help young people create more startups, high-growth enterprises, or attract more young talent in already existing SMEs. In this regard, the Commission adopted just in September an SME relief package, which puts forward a series of measures which aim to improve the liquidity and access to finance, also tackling late payments, to capitalize on the full potential offered by EU programs to SMEs, to improve SMEs' participation in public procurement, and to make it easier for SMEs to access sustainable finance. So that's more or less what I wanted to say. Let me just add that each year, the EU organizes a European Prize for Women Innovators, which celebrates the women entrepreneurs behind Europe's most groundbreaking innovations. The prize awards women from across the EU and countries associated to Horizon Europe, whose disruptive innovations are driving positive change for people and planet. So I really hope that one of the future laureates is one of you who's listening to me today. Voila. And with this hope, I give the floor from David Haladinsky from the OECD. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ruth. And welcome to everybody on behalf of the OECD. We're very excited to see all of you again. And we've got a great topic for the workshop today. And what we're doing is we're actually bringing together two major fields in entrepreneurship. That is women's entrepreneurship and youth entrepreneurship. Both of these areas are of immense importance, politically speaking. There have been years of support for women's entrepreneurship. And if you track the progress made, we can demonstrate that there has been some successes. You know, many of the gender gaps are slowly closing. But the point is that it is very slow. They are closing very slowly. And similarly, youth entrepreneurship has been important over the past 15 years as we've had successive crises that disrupt the pathways that many young people are on we've had interruptions in education and great difficulties transitioning into work. And although these are challenges at certain points in time, the consequences for these young people could last their lifetime. There are penalties in terms of lifetime earnings that may never be fully caught up. And of course, these delays early on in their life have great impacts on individual decisions that are made about where they live. Are they going to have families? And these, of course, collectively have great consequences for our societies and for our economies. So today I'm excited that we're bringing these two fields together. And there are a few surprises when you put them beside each other. Ruth already mentioned the missing entrepreneurs reports. And one of the things that we see in this new report is that actually, in contrast to my expectations, the gender gap among young people in entrepreneurship is quite large, almost as big as in older ages, which was a bit of a surprise to me because I thought, if you're looking at trends in education and trends in work, you see great progress made. A lot of fields and universities are now majority young women. So I had assumed that this was carrying on into entrepreneurship, but it's not true. There's a very large gender gap among the youngest population of entrepreneurs. So today we're going to be looking at different issues about why is this the case? What are the barriers and market failures that are influencing these outcomes and decisions? And what could governments do to try to help address some of these challenges? So we've got a panel that we're going to dig into some of these questions and look at the experiences and try to learn from some young women entrepreneurs. And we've also got some case studies in the second half of the workshop that look at specific initiatives on what governments are doing and what is working and what are the lessons that we could draw from these experiences. Again, looking specifically at supporting young women entrepreneurs. So before I wrap up here, I just want to make a few quick news announcements. First is just to reiterate that the Missing Entrepreneurs Report will be published at the end of November, and there are 2 chapters on youth entrepreneurship, also a chapter on women's entrepreneurship. So I think this is probably of great interest to many of you, so we will provide you information about that report and the launch. So stay tuned for that. Second of all, I wanted to share with you that our YEPA participants in Sweden got together and organized a workshop for a range of actors in Sweden to look at youth entrepreneurship in Sweden. They did that at the beginning of October. So I want to let you know if anyone is interested in doing such a little workshop in their country, we're of course happy to help you get that organized, help you facilitate that, just reach out. And finally, a quick congratulations. You might remember the Moonshot Pirates. They were at the Brussels event and they won a big award called the Mega Award a couple of weeks ago. So just a quick congratulations to them. It's great to see the success of the various participants in their activities. So that wraps it up for me. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the co-host for the workshop. And you might recall that each workshop is hosted by a country. And what I'm going to do is introduce Solène, who's Director of Entrepreneurial Projects and Enterprise Development at the Ministry of Economy, Finance and Recovery in France. And she's going to tell us a little bit about the issues faced in France and what they are working on now. So welcome to everybody, and over to you, Solène.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you all this afternoon, and really excited to co-host this workshop. I don't know if many people are on the call were in Brussels, which year was this? March March this year, I guess. Yes, thank you, Helen. So yes, these topics are of big interest for us in France. I won't go into details right now, David, as it is the subject of our common presentation with my colleague Claire. But just to tell you that in France we have a dedicated plan to foster women entrepreneurship. We will go further into details a little bit afterwards. And also, it was very interesting for us to participate in the YEPA initiative, because for the moment, we don't have a specific public policies aimed at all the young population. We have different targets, such as students, such as young people in priority neighborhoods, but also we want to start things very early on at school, and we have dedicated programs for that. So what we will present later on with Claire is that we have dedicated actions for women, dedicated actions for young people, for pupils. And it's very interesting for us to have the opportunity in such a discussion to have a cross approach to these issues. So very happy to be here, to have the opportunity to learn from the experience of the entrepreneurs, and also of what other countries do. So we hope to share our experience and learn from yours.
Great, thank you very much. That's a good way to get the ball rolling on today's event. So we move into the first session, and we're very happy to be joined by 4 young women who are turning their dreams into businesses. And so we're going to quickly ask them to introduce themselves. And at the same time, I'm going to ask them the first question. Okay, and that's to tell us a little bit about what sparked your entry into entrepreneurship. What was the motivation for starting your business? So we'll turn first to Emily. Could you please introduce yourself? Tell us what you're doing briefly, and what was the spark behind this? Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, David. And thank you, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. And I'm grateful for you organizing this. This is, I think we can all agree, something that we really appreciate and is really needed to highlight this gap and push it forward. So, hi, everyone. My name is Emila. I'm originally from Lithuania. And by training, I was a neuroscientist and neuropsychiatrist. And about 2 years ago, I founded Samphire Neuroscience, which is a medical neurotechnology company, which is building hardware and software products for women's health needs in particular. So we have now built our first device, which is a brain stimulation device that you wear on top of your head for PMS and menstrual pain, kind of overviewing the entire R&D process as well as manufacturing, and moving now into production and commercialization in the EU. So it has been quite a journey. And so I'm very excited to share essentially what it means to build a technology business in Europe, what types of support systems are available for young founders, and share kind of the don't do this advice as well. So really pleased to be here.
That's great. And could you maybe tell us a little bit about what got you going? You know, what was it that made you think this is something I want to pursue?
Yeah, for sure. I was told that we need to keep our answers to 1 to 2 minutes, so I was really restricting them. But my background was really studying novel ways of improving psychiatric treatment in the field of depression. And that's what I was researching for years. And kind of as I was digging into that deeper, I realized that there's a particular subsection of people experiencing depression that tends to be neglected, and that happens to disproportionately fall on women. So women, on average, will experience symptoms like premenstrual syndrome or premenstrual depression, or postpartum depression, or gestational depression during pregnancy, or perimenopausal depression. And at the moment, all of those forms of depression, which disproportionately affect women and have different mechanisms that are related to hormonal changes, actually are treated like any other forms of depression. And kind of seeing the gap in that research, and as well as technologies and solutions in that area, I just got really passionate about understanding why that field is neglected scientifically. And one of my conclusions about why that was the case is because there are too few scientists who are women who are aware of these issues working on them. And so for me, being an entrepreneur, but also being still an academic, I'm still kind of pursuing my PhD in Oxford and continuing my academic career alongside. I think it's really important not to forget that both academia and entrepreneurship have this gap in women founders or women participants in it. And it's really about seeing problems that people who don't have that lived experience cannot. And so that's kind of what drove me to this area, seeing the gap as well as thinking that there is something I see that others haven't, that gives me a unique insight into changing this problem.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We'll dig into some of these gaps in a few minutes, but let's turn to Ariba now. Ariba, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your business and what was the motivation behind it?
Sure. Thank you very much for this wonderful panel, and I'm happy to be a speaker here. So, yeah, my name is Ariba Rahman. I founded my company 15 years ago. The name is Fredbay, and the second one is my Boxman that we started later on. So Fredbay is actually a technological platform where you can buy transportation and logistics and moving services online. So just imagine for 2 seconds that we go back into 2007, and then we tell you that now you will be able to buy transportation services without meeting the mover, the transportation company. You will do all the measurement online. Plus the price will be very much interesting because 25% of the trucks are completely empty on the road of France, and more than 50% have half loaded as compared to their capacity. And so that will decrease the price because you will benefit of the half and the empty spaces in the trucks, and plus it will have a very positive impact, ecological impact on the environment. So back in 2007, 2008, that was like a crazy thing that we decided to do. So this is what Fredbay offers as a services. Now, if I would like to tell you that, first of all, French entrepreneurs is a French word that means taking hold of your own life, that you become proactive in your life. So actually, this is something that we do every time, whatever kind of decision that you want to take. It can be in professional field because we are discussing professional, of course, but in every kind of decision that you take, it could be about marriage, about child, about buying a house, whatever. You become entrepreneur of your life. So why, when we decide to become entrepreneur and we take it as a professional, in a professional domain, we need to think twice or thrice, or maybe 5, 6 times, or maybe we hesitate. Who fail to start. Why is that so? We are just thinking differently, whereas we just need to think, okay, I want to take hold of my own life. I want to take decisions. I'm convinced that there is a market. I'm convinced that I have a solution. So I just have to jump in. As far as I'm concerned, I was not even knowing that I'm starting entrepreneurship. You know, I was working as a teacher. I was a fonctionnaire, which is a government job in France. I was doing that, and because I saw an opportunity, I was just convinced that I was pioneer in this domain. That's digitalizing all this domain of transportation. It's a great idea, and it will work. I was convinced. So I don't know how it happened, and I don't know what I was doing, but I was just doing it, you know. And then later on, when I met banker and I met like other peoples, they make me realize that, oh, so you are doing business. And then the word business became entrepreneurship. So this is just a simple evolution, you know, of the society of words. But actually, yeah, we are just doing business. As a woman, we encounter difficulties and challenges. Yes, they are there. But now why I'm insisting in that is just that we are convinced about something and we just start. I think the word entrepreneur seems too big, and maybe it can be scary for a lot of people, a lot of women out there, but actually it is not. So unconsciously, I started. Seriously, I did it unconsciously. And then I came to know that the title that was given to me was entrepreneur. So that's my journey.
Great. Thank you, Ariba. You touched on an issue that I actually love, which is the word entrepreneur, because it doesn't exist in all languages. And so it's fascinating how having that word or not having that word influences how people view business ownership and how that influences their behaviors. But we don't have time to dig into that today, unfortunately. So we'll keep moving along. Maria, thank you for joining us today. Why don't you tell us about yourself and your business and how you got started?
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to meet you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak during this event. My name is Maria. I'm 24 years old from Bulgaria. I graduated from the American University in Bulgaria 3 years ago. And before having my own business, I was part of an international corporation doing human resources and marketing. But it ended up that currently I'm the owner and managing director of Conversion Century. We are a digital agency with the main focus on SEO, or search engine optimization. We work with clients from Bulgaria, Western Europe, and United States. And I definitely agree with Ariba with saying that at the beginning, I didn't know that I would become an entrepreneur and having something by my own, but it turned out to be like that. I'm gonna explain a bit more about that during the event, but answering your question, what really motivated me to continue working in this sphere is that I saw a gap in the market, and I really wanted to provide a quality service here in Bulgaria and also educate the audience and the businesses that having a strong digital marketing part for their business is crucial. And if they want to step on the international market, they need to invest in that, and they need to choose the agency wisely. And probably this is my main motivator, and still it is, to provide the quality service every businesses need. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Very much. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
And we will move on to Yasmin. Why don't you introduce yourself, please? And
Hello.
likewise, tell us about your business.
Hello, thank you for this invitation to participate in the workshop. It's very nice to be here. My name is Yasemin Yusuf. I'm 28 years old from Bulgaria, and I'm the founder of Jasmine's Classroom online language school for adult education and training. So we provide language education for professionals and adults in particular, because we believe that it's never too late to learn, to develop our skills, our knowledge, and we know how important it is in nowadays world to be able to speak foreign languages fluently and to communicate freely. So we strive to provide quality education, innovative education to that particular group of learners. So I founded my company 3 years ago. Back then it was just me teaching to a couple of students. After I graduated my bachelor's in Sofia University. So nowadays there are 5 teachers in my team, and we provide education in English, German, Spanish, Japanese, and Greek languages. So about the start of my journey, I first encountered entrepreneurship on an Erasmus Plus project where I participated. The topic was about startup companies. It was very new for me. I didn't have much knowledge back then, but I had the chance to speak to people who had their own businesses, who had business ideas, and I really got interested in that field, even though I didn't have my business idea back then. So for me, it happened naturally. It really developed gradually after I finished my education in English and American Studies. I started teaching in different schools in Sofia. After that, I started having private students as well, but I wasn't ready to start my own company and to work for myself yet. So I decided to pursue another degree in business administration. That was my master's program, and then marketing, so that I get more knowledge, more qualification, and more skills in order to do it. And it's interesting to mention maybe that in the beginning of our masters, they asked us why we chose to enroll, why we want to study business administration. And most of my colleagues shared that they wanted to work in big companies, to be managers in international companies. And for me, the reason was that I wanted to have my own business and know how to manage it. And so it happened for me. Back then, I didn't have this idea of the language school. Actually, I had other ideas. I had maybe 3 or 4 other ideas. But this was the only one that I took the action to accomplish and to pursue in some way. So I'm not very sure when the moment was when I decided I was ready to do it. I think it was maybe long before I did it, maybe years before I did it. But I do remember when was the moment when I said I'm doing it. And it was in the beginning of my journey. I didn't have many clients yet, and I wasn't able to pay all the taxes that are related to having a business. But then I had a student who approached me, and he wanted to have 4 lessons every day. And for me, that was the tipping point. I said, I'm doing it, and I did it. So I think that it's, as Ariba mentioned, it's about taking action. It's not so much about being ready or not to do it. It's about being prepared and waiting for the right moment and then taking the action when you have the chance to do it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Yasmin. So what we want to do with this little panel discussion is put a face on the issue, hear directly from young women entrepreneurs about their experience, because in the session today, we've got people that work in government, we've got people that work in support organizations, and I think it's easy to hear about statistics and it's easy to just have it go over your head. I think what we're hoping from the panel today is really to make the issues real and tell the people in the government about your experiences so that they can really understand what it's like for young women who want to get into entrepreneurship. So we'll start with Ariba, I think. I think that you're operating in sort of the technology world, and that is traditionally an area where there has also been an underrepresentation of women. Could you maybe tell us about some of the challenges that you've experienced in that field, and maybe tell us if you've seen any changes? I think you noted back in 2007 you started, which was 15 years ago. Maybe things have changed, maybe not.
Well, if I have to compare, yes, it's there are a lot of improvements, I would say. But now, just to compare properly, I would like to mention maybe 2 or 3 challenges, not to mention failures, because failures, there are too many, but maybe challenges that I managed to, face and find a solution. So the first one is, yes, it is a technological sector, but not only, because it is related with the transportation domain. So there were double challenges, because first in technological, where women were lacking a lot of education, were not having any experience. It was a male domain, and plus a transportation sector. So for me, it was quite, I would say, quite impossible to go and convince, for example, the banker, because I was needing fund. Okay, it's a technological company, so you can start with 2,000 euro. This is what I did. But still, you need some money, to have like hiring interns and all this stuff. So at that time, I remember when I met my banker, she was a woman, and she was just laughing at me directly. And she said, okay, are you married? Could you come with your husband? I mean, he was not related at all with my business, but she really thought that she needed to meet both the couple to see the stability of the couple, to understand the business. And she was not trusting me alone, because she said, okay, what you are saying, there's no benchmark possible. It's a first time you are pioneering in your domain. It's a male domain. You are a woman. You are launching a technological platform, but you don't have this background. So And I was, I came with a lot of big digits, because this is how it goes. When you have a BP, you try to, a forecast for 5 years. And of course, the digits are bigger and bigger. So she was like, she is completely gone nuts. She was not trusting me. So, for example, the first challenge I faced was that convincing my female banker that she can trust me and I know what I'm talking about. But so that was a challenge that the bank refused, and it was completely closed. We couldn't have a discussion. I could totally refuse to go there with my husband because it's kind of degrading for me. So I said, okay, I'll find another way. And that's why I chose the path of raising fund with a VC company here in France, in Paris. So that was for me the main shock that I faced in my journey of entrepreneurship. Then in France, for example, we have a lot of, at that time, not anymore, at that time, we had a lot of networking, association and clubs that were kind of closed for women, especially in transportation sector. So for example, if I wanted to go there, the access for me was completely refused. And when I tried to discuss with different kind of transporters, you know what they said? They said, okay, I would love to have you as my secretary or have a coffee with you, but I couldn't imagine shaking hand with you and putting you at the same level of my company, and you cannot be my partner, my technological partner. So that was a second, for me, shocking comment that I received at that time. But again, these 2 points, as I said, they have now a lot of improvements, because now all the clubs are completely mixed. So you can join very easily different kind of clubs. And I understood by the time that you just need to have a lot of confidence, a big smile on your face, and then you can more easily, enter and have a discussion with even people who are completely close to you. So these are different tactics, I would say, that you learn by the time. And so here the idea, I don't want, I don't want people here to go and think like it's, oh my God, too much difficulties, too much challenges, because you always have a plan B in your business. For example, the bank refused. So I went and knocked at the door of investors, of VC, and I got that. I did it in 6 months of time, So I found a VC that trusted me, who wanted to work in an innovation sector. And the fact that I was a woman was a plus point for them. So you always have a plan B. When you cannot enter one club of association for networking that is the most important for you, you always find another way to go through. For example, here, what I decided to do at that time, I said, okay, no club, no networking for me, it's fine. I started to participate and being a contestant in different kind of trophies. When you become a candidate and you want to win different titles and trophies. This is what I did, because I believe that at that time it will give me credibility, a lot of visibility. So thanks to that, at what point all my transporters, they were like, okay, maybe she has a wonderful kind of solution that we can at least try to listen to her and discuss with her. So because she is, getting one and other, all the national awards that can maybe be beneficial for the environment, for our sector, and bring us to this fastest race of technology at that time. So we always have plan B, and yeah, that's it. Unless you want more, because I have a lot of things to tell.
Oh, sure. I know you've raised a lot of good points, but I want to shift slightly, I think, and go back to the first point that you made. I think we'll ask Emila about her experience, because, you were talking about technology and transport where women are underrepresented and the challenges that you faced, notably in funding. Emila, I'm assuming it's a bit a similar story for you in academia. You were working on a very science research-based business. What was your experience with funding the research and getting the funding for your business?
Yeah, for sure. Happy to go in depth there. But I also really think that something that Ariba said is key here, which is that, we can talk about challenges all day. And I think the unfortunate bit would be for many young entrepreneurs, especially young female entrepreneurs, to walk away being like, everything's crap. It's really difficult to do things. And these are for people that have somehow succeeded, but I can't. And I think one thing, Ariba, that you said that is really key is if you can't go banging on the first door and the front door, you have to go banging on the doors around it. Like, you have tools available to you that make you a unique entrepreneur and bring that unique perspective. And I think that's really important. So, I mean, to dive a little bit deeper into my story. So I was working, again, a researcher in technology, generally a male-dominated field, but across, as Ariba also pointed out, each industry has different verticals within it. So for her, it was transportation and technology. In my case, it was technology, hardware development, electronics development and engineering, as well as psychiatry, as well as academia. So a lot of these kind of verticals, most of them, except for maybe psychology, being dominated by men. And I think when I started my research, there's a couple of things that I want to touch on, which is essentially when you know an environment, it's very difficult to think that you could do something outside of it, especially when you're a young person that's been trained in a way. And I think COVID has maybe changed it because it has shown people what different careers and alternative careers could look like. But by far and beyond, most R&D does happen in academic settings. And most academics just have this very linear understanding of their path. You do your bachelor's, then you do your master's, then you maybe do a research assistantship, then you do a PhD, then you do a postdoc, then you have good ideas, eventually you become a professor, and then you're 60, and essentially just continuing with the rest of your life, but you never really leave. Or if you do leave, you can't really come back. And that's actually the threat that a lot of young scientists feel over them, is that they can never try out alternative careers. Leaving academia and coming back to it is extremely difficult and is very much discouraged by universities. And that doesn't work really, I don't think, in a system where actually only 1 in 100 PhD students will get a postdoc, 1 in 100 postdocs will get an academic position further on. So there are so many people kind of dropping away, and people with lots of, research and development training that don't really get the experience to kind of try around. So in my personal experience, I was kind of starting my PhD and working in this area, and got really interested in seeing this gap of specifically technologies lacking and treatments lacking for depression related to women's health. And so I actually went to my supervisors and started talking about the topic, banging on doors. And I was saying, my topic is on novel depression treatments. What about novel depression treatments for women? Literally adding 2 words, a relatively minor shift. The blowback that I got was very surprising to me. And I recognized that it was surprising because of my naivete as a young person, which looking back was the reason that I was called to action. But it was that, we don't have a specific grant for this. This is too difficult because you need to call in women and track their cycles. And that's very difficult, despite the fact that half of the population do it. It's very difficult because we don't understand how to do it, but then how will you understand if you don't research it? And so there were a lot of these systemic things that were happening in the answers that I really just didn't like. And I had a background in building NGOs in this area, specifically on advocacy and women's health. And so I kind of just didn't take no for the answer. And that to me was the equivalent of Ariba's front door. Had that front door been open to me and they were like, great, do this academic research, I probably would have never become an entrepreneur. And I would have probably stayed in academia and been happy researching. But because I had no money nor anything to try to do something with this idea, I really needed to take another way. And luckily, that was around the time where I met my co-founder, who had previously built a company before and was the person who even told me that there are alternative pots of money to a salary or a grant, which I'm being a bit facetious around, but I actually didn't know that you could get money otherwise to do stuff. And so kind of fast forwarding, we ended up going the venture capital route, similarly to Ariba as well, but also taking grants for specifically R&D and scientific development from both the UK and EU governments, which have made a huge difference in taking risks and being able to push our research further. And so for me, the main insights from that entire journey is really about the fact that 1, you may need to be creative in your approaches, but 2 is if you really distill the idea and understand why you're doing and what your hypotheses are around it, and also what are the quick ways of testing your hypothesis, because in the very beginning, we built our own prototype in just, honestly, my bedroom. And then we went to test it out with women, and my co-founder is actually a man. And when he saw us testing with women, he couldn't believe what he saw, because he's like, I just can't believe the way they describe their pain and mood symptoms every single month. He's like, how do people do this every month and it's not a solved problem? He was like, you know, if this was a man's problem, it would have been solved years ago. And I think, while I'm being funny about it, I do think there's something really at the core, is that women neglect their pain. Women live many more years of their life in bad health. And I think because of that, we've let a lot of those things slide. And I think just seeing that effect and trying it out and being able to show then the funders and the financiers the evidence. Again, I'm kind of bumping on you, Ariba, because you said a lot of good points. But when you come to ask for funding and you're like, look, this was the theory, this was the hypothesis, we went out, this was the response, here is the validation. If you allow us to be able to scale the technology and make it something that so many more women could benefit from, look at what results that could have. And I think the results of our work, but also the work of all the other panelists, focuses not only on individual benefits, which is how much better will an individual woman feel, but those are actually social benefits. So, you know, all of our work, I think that's the other thing. And I saw Melis mentioning that in the comment section as well, but there are a lot of sectors that are dominated by women. And what's unique about women's entrepreneurship is that women on average tend to overrepresent men in founding businesses that have social purpose. And so I think that also encouraging female entrepreneurship is not only a general good thing for the economy, but also we choose to work on topics that seem to make the, you know, kind of society a little bit more functional. And so I know I'm kind of skirting around the topic of funding, but because I believe that funding is a tool and means to an end. It's not the end in itself. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the male-dominated sectors, talk about the fact of like getting the funding. I'm so cool, I got so much funding. It doesn't freaking matter if you're not able to build something good out of it. So I think focusing on the value that is being built and transformed and the return on that finance is much more important. Because if you internalize that, then getting funding will always be difficult, but it will be easier if you focus on the value that you can build and the resources that you can use to build it as well. So that has been my take. But that being said, I think since then I've learned so many more ways of being able to operate effectively and different kinds of businesses, especially for businesses like ours that require a lot of upfront investment. And also, if anyone's considering that, I'm also very happy to chat separately and delve deeper into it, because there's a lot of nuance in there too.
Well, thanks for that offer. You've raised many, many good points. Unfortunately, we're a bit limited in time to dig into all of them, but I want to let everybody know that, you know, I want you to take advantage of this opportunity. So please, we're going to open the floor in a minute. So please think of questions and comments. You can raise your hand in anticipation and you can start to put things in the chat. And before we do that, I'm going to ask a last question to Maria and Yasmin, and that is to shift a bit to the forward-looking. You know, if I want you to tell us briefly if you think there's anything that you could draw from your experience to share with the people involved in designing policies and programs. You know, what lesson would you share with them? Is there something missing? Is there something more needed? I don't know. You tell us. Maria first.
Yeah, thank you for the question, because actually my story is a bit different than the other two stories we already heard, because from a regular employee in my company, I turned out to be the owner and buying the company with a bank loan. So in the case of buying a company already established itself on the market, having clients, employees, and so on, it was almost impossible for me to have funding or investment from other sides. So I had to cope with this issue by myself, and the only way was taking a bank loan. But the main problem for me was that I was 22. I was just finished university, having almost no experience as a regular employee. I was just doing the internship and some other things, but the problem with the banks was that they find me to be too young for taking the loan. Briefly explaining the case with me, I started working as an intern in Conversion Century because it's a company 8 years old. The previous owner was from my university, and this was how I found this opportunity and applied for the role. I was working there 2 years, but the owner of the agency moved to United States and he decided to sell the company. The offer he proposed me was to buy the company in return for 50,000 leva, having 25 clients, 3 employees, and like all the things that a normal company is having. So I needed to take the action and to be very fast in taking the decision of buying or not the company. I decided to buy it, but the main problem was that I was having a student loan, which was 60,000, and the banks weren't considering me as how to say it, didn't believe in me that I would be able to return the loan. So it was 6 months going to the banks, asking for the opportunity, explaining the things that I want to develop in the company and so on. So it was a very long process, and this was the main challenge for me, even though I had a lot more to cope with the clients, to cope with the employees, to become a leader, to increase my self-awareness, and so many other challenges. But the main was the lack of like the opportunity to have a bank loan. So for me, this is one issue that really needs to take action and to propose some opportunities and easier to apply loan opportunities in general. So, yeah.
All right, thank you, Maria. I mean, you've raised a couple of good points, echoing on finance again, but I was also struck about some of the, let's say, softer skills you mentioned, leadership and so on. And that's sort of a nice point I want to turn to Yasmin about, because I was struck in your first intervention, Yasmin, you noted that it was years before you did it. And so you had this feeling that it was something you wanted to pursue, but it took a long time for you to realize that. Is there something you think could be done by governments or anybody to help overcome that, to help give young women the self-confidence and the belief that they can do it and help them realize their dreams?
Yes, thank you for this question. So my story, of course, is different from the other ladies, and I can highlight and mention some things that helped me in my path to success, to entrepreneurship. So for me, I had a chance to start my journey. Let's say I started work early enough when I got 18 years of age, and I had enough time to see what I liked and what I didn't like. So I think that it's a good for us to start early enough, not to be afraid to try different things until we find the one that we like. And when we do find it, then to just pursue it and stick to it. So I can highlight some of the things that helped me in my journey. So starting early helped me. As I mentioned, the Erasmus program helped me a lot. All the additional courses, the trainings, the seminars that I attended helped me. So I think that so I think that it's great to have such trainings and seminars provided for young people so that they can get more skills, more knowledge, and for them to be more accessible, even free for them to join. Also, having the right environment of people, to have a supportive environment, is essential. And of course, the funding, as the other ladies already mentioned. So it would be great if there's some programs to finance such initiatives, not only for women and not only for young people in particular. I believe that everyone who wants to start a business should be supported in such way, and it would be great to have more information campaigns so that all this existing information is more accessible to people. But if I have to highlight one main thing, which is the most important, I think, it would be to invest in education. And what I mean by that, education, for me, it consists maybe 80% of my success is owing to my education. I got the chance to get a very good education, and it gives you the freedom to, as Ariba mentioned, for me, it gave me a plan B. So that's another reason why I applied for my business administration master's program, because I thought, okay, now I have the skills, I have the qualifications to teach, I can work it any school in Bulgaria. But what if in 30 years time or more, I just decide that that's not what I want to do anymore, and I don't have any additional skills or qualification? So I just wanted to have additional skills and knowledge so that I have the freedom to choose what I really like. And I think that it also applies for entrepreneurship. Some people will choose this way, others will not, which is also fine. But if you have a good education, it always gives you a plan B. So if your business fails, if you're not successful in the first or second year of your business, which is likely to happen, then you need to have additional plan B. You need to have a plan B, and having a good education really matters. It gives you the opportunity to be into business because you like it, because you're passionate about it, and not because you have to and you don't have another opportunity, or you just need the money. So I think education is essential, and it would be it would be very great to have more opportunities like grants, scholarships for young people, so that they are supported in their education.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. That was well articulated. So we can now open the floor to anyone. If you would like to ask a question, add a comment, add a reaction, anything goes. You can raise your hand. We've already got a question in the chat, so I will fire that out to Emily maybe. And the question is theme of young women entrepreneurs. And I think this is came up just after you talked. It said you shared your perceived experience as a woman, but did not directly refer to being a young woman. Does that make a difference in your experience, the age?
Yeah, I think as we heard from all the other stories, being a young woman has implications on the way you're seen by investors, banks, or anyone. And I think parts of it kind of make sense because you do have less experience and evidence. Like particularly Maria's story, I found very interesting because it's very difficult to have the evidence that you can, give the loan back if you've just finished university and still have that loan kind of pursuing you and etc. So you do have less of a track record necessarily, but I do think that for me raises the opposite question of what do you look for then? Maybe the things that we're looking for when we're giving out loans are not the right things, because if they always are inherently related to experience, then they will inherently discriminate against young people. So maybe we should tie it to some future amount rather than a past amount as well. For my personal experience, I found being young helpful in some ways, primarily in recruiting. I found it being much easier to attract talent, especially, for example, we were looking for engineers in areas that I was not skilled in, other researchers, and I found that being young was a big advantage in attracting people to work in a young, active team where people feel heard and understood and culturally more easily embedded. So we have a rather young team, but everyone is, kind of working both educated, but also working in the context of their skills expanding. So we were very open with people switching professions. Actually, all of our engineers were originally trained in physics, but I think because they saw me as a young woman and a young leader in the company, they were very excited to work in that context. So I found that to be an area where being a young female entrepreneur was being helpful. In general, though, I kind of don't want to go the negative route, but I think you will always have the perception of being too young for what you're doing. I have actively started wearing much darker makeup, which I kid you not, to go to investor meetings to look a little bit older. I tend to oftentimes go to very important meetings with my co-founder. I totally take your point, Ariba, in that I didn't do it historically for particular reasons, but since then I understood that looking more adult or kind of seeming a little bit older has been beneficial, and I care too much about my business not to do it. That's kind of my approach. So I think it remains hard, but I think I try to focus on the positives, which is that recruitment is better as a young person. It's easier to understand current work culture as a young person. I'm more accepting of hybrid work offices because I think they allow for better talent retention and recruitment as well. And beyond that, I think the worst enemy that I feel as a young woman is actually my own sense of trying to restrict myself because I'm too young to do this, or I'm too young to do that, or I'm too young to deviate from the common path. So I think as long as I keep that under reins, everything is feasible. So yeah, I'd like to focus on the positives of it, because I think the negatives are, unfortunately, those are probably the only things that are shared across our experiences, which are the negatives around it. Other than that, our paths are very different, but that's unfortunately a commonality.
Yeah, thank you. That's a nice way to turn the question around and look at the positives. Are there any other questions? Please don't be shy. We've got time for a question or two. You can just speak up. We're a small enough group. Anybody?
I think I might just add a little bit, if there are no questions, but if anyone does, please just unmute yourself. But I actually didn't hear much from Ariba, Yasmin, and Maria. It seems that you all work by yourselves, but I wanted to just say, just for me personally, and maybe it's because of my background in academia and going into R&D, I found it very helpful to start with a team. So sometimes you may have an idea, but if you have people who you trust and work well with, my experience was that this journey of being a founder, entrepreneur, business person, however you want to call it, is difficult. So being able to work on it with people is really valuable, if there's anyone in the audience considering it.
Any quick reactions from the other speakers to pick up on that, Maria?
I definitely agree with that, because currently I'm also having a partner, because we are like developing the 360 marketing approach, but it's a totally different topic. But I just want to mention that having a partner and in cases when the partner is male, it's a lot beneficial, especially for business meetings, going together, representing the company, representing our ideas. It creates somehow a balance. And I think that we are a lot stronger together when we go together and present like both our perspectives to the client or potential partner, etc. Yeah.
Great. So we've broken the ice. We've got a few more questions popping up. We'll turn to Severin first. She's got her hand raised. Severin, over to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your, well, the quality of, I would say, of your talks, and the quality, the fact that you shared so very interesting things. I just have two reactions. They can be questions, but I'm not sure of that. My first reaction was, we are dealing with you women entrepreneurs in developed countries, I would say, in Europe, in the UK as well. And what I find very surprising, and if I may, a bit upsetting, is to face in 2022 or maybe 2023 so old-fashioned patriarchal reactions from networks. And I'm just figuring how it can be when you are dealing with more officially patriarchal countries. And I say, wow, it must be very, very, very tough. So that's my first reaction. My second reaction is, I was wondering, what are the current policies? Because we have lots of policies going around trying to increase and to raise awareness and to raise entrepreneurial intention among young women, especially. But what are the policies that have been developed just to reduce these types of stereotypes, such as bankers who are seeking for husband spouses? We are not in the 70s anymore. So that's my biggest question. Thank you for your attention.
Can you, sorry, can you just rephrase your last question?
Yes, I was wondering what kind of policies and public policies, what kind of policies have been developed to strengthen or to reduce basically stereotypes among bankers. Because I believe that if there is one policy on the side whose aim is to increase awareness, increase entrepreneurial intention, to raise, a leadership process, and meantime, you have this kind of official glass ceiling. It's not a glass ceiling. It's it's a concrete ceiling from bankers. It can be very, something must be wrong somewhere. I don't know if I replied to your question, Ariba.
No, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Séverine. So can I just react on what she suggested? Okay.
Please.
So regarding a bank or any kind of domain, there is a scientific study that shows that if you have a mixed company, I mean, if there is at least one woman as a co-founder or one woman on the C-level of the company, the performance of the company is much better than if you have only a company composed with male directors or founders. So I think all the finance sector, the bankers and all, they understood that. This is something that have been very well communicated on a very large scale. And so this is something that is very much like evolving now. Mentalities are just changing. There is something, another point that I'm sorry, I don't want to forget, but because I see that we have some government people here sitting and listening, I wanted to react to that question, David, if you can just allow me, when you said if we have some recommendation for the government. And all the time when we talk about entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurship, we all believe as a woman that we need to bring a change in an educational system. So here, I think, because we all have the soft skills, we just need to enhance and work on that. But the problem is concerning the role model. So I believe that what we could do, I mean, in all educational system, is to have one dedicated day, or maybe a half day, compulsory on all the education system, and we can, I mean, the government can arrange to have half day or 1 day of woman entrepreneurship, or woman on a high level of a C-level job, go and meet young people. So all the young people can project themselves and see that it is possible. Because what happens now, if you look at the media, less of 10% women are only represented in all the magazines or media. Less than 10%. I mean, we need more women to be projected. We need more women to be shown as role model. So all the young generation, they can project themselves. They can see that, okay, this is something that if he is doing, I can do it myself. This is exactly what we are doing here in YEPA, exactly, but on a large scale. And here, I think this should be a day in an educational system, maybe on a high school. So, or maybe lower than that. So young generation can project themselves, imagining that this is also possible. For example, having a woman doing a job that is mainly represented by men. So, but she's a woman, she's succeeding. So she should go and talk on and show herself being a role model for all the young generation. So this is just something that I wanted to add on the question. I'm sorry if, Séverine, I didn't answer to your whole question. I don't want to monopolize the speech.
I'm just conscious of time, sorry, David, if you don't mind, because I have a bit of a hard stop at 15 past, but I just wanted to jump on that opportunity that Ariba opened up about government policies, because I do think it's really important keeping this audience in mind. And the main point is that oftentimes we talk about, campaigns to increase diversity, awareness, improve access at the top level. I actually think that based on my experience with most of my friends who have businesses and have chosen to take the leap, the problem isn't part of the problem is not being able to see yourself at the high levels. That's definitely part of it. But the largest reason I would say that women don't start businesses, especially young women, is because they don't have a safety net. It's the bottom, it's the risk aversion as opposed to the opportunity to excel. And what I see of a lot of policies, and I'm primarily talking about the UK, but I'm quite aware of the stuff that's happening in the EU, and I think it's definitely in the right direction, but it always focuses on like that direction of growth as opposed to providing a safety net. Like, let's say 3 months Like, at which point can founding a business be considered, employment, pensions, small things like that that actually make a difference for people having a credit score, or people being able to, so they could show that they're able to do loans. So focusing much more on providing a safety net, because most businesses fail within the first 2 years. The problem really isn't how do I become from a small CEO a huge CEO. There's definitely a problem, but it's an easier problem to solve than how do I become from an average citizen a small single company, single person CEO. And I think that safety net policies, and I'm not a policymaker, but I know there's a lot of small differences that you could make in order to make that a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Unfortunately, we've got to close this down now. This has been a great discussion, and there are still some unanswered questions in the chat. So perhaps I'll invite the speakers just to have a quick look. There's a question about gender balance inside the company. Do you consider that when hiring, and do you try to maintain it inside your company? And there was another question about support. Did you receive support from government, another organization, mentors, etc., during your entrepreneurial journey? So if you have a few seconds, you could just type that into the chat. And otherwise, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. That was really fascinating. It's great to put a face on these issues, because as Ariba was quoting, there are studies out there that talk about the statistics and the science and everything behind some of these decisions, but it's quite different when you get to sit down and talk face to face and learn directly from somebody. So thank you very much for joining us. It's a fantastic discussion, and you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the session if you are free. And we're going to slightly adjust the agenda, and we're going to move directly to the presentation from our co-host, France. So Claire and Solène, I'm going to turn over to you, back to you for your presentation.
Thank you, David. Can people see our slides? Because I can't. So
1 second, I'm getting them up. Sorry.
thank you.
You should be able to see them now.
Exactly. Thank you so much. So we can start. Next slide, please. So just a quick few words just about previous slide. Yes, just to introduce ourselves, to understand who we are and what we do for the French government. So Solène, I work for the Ministry of Economics, Finance and Industrial and Digital Sovereignty. And I work in the business development department. And in my team, we deal with the entrepreneurship, but which should be understood in a larger meaning, going from business creation to development, to difficulties, to transmission, and to sometimes failure. And in this area, we deal with female entrepreneurship. So that's for me at the Ministry of Economics. But then over to Claire.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Claire Nodeneau. I represent the Ministry for Gender Equality, and my department is is dedicated to professional equality between men and women in general, but therefore we have some particular actions dedicated to the entrepreneurship by women. So we were invited by the OECD today to introduce you with Solène to the French government's public policies concerning entrepreneurship by women and young women in particular, and to introduce you with a specific focus on this population as it's highly needed regarding the obstacles women are encountering concerning their entrepreneurial practices. So we wanted to point out some key figures to illustrate the situation in France. So we have around 40% of entrepreneurs in France in 2021 that are under 30. So really, we have a big youth population interested in entrepreneurship. Since a study revealed in 2021 that 50% of the population between 18 and 30 years old are part of the entrepreneurial chain, including intentionists. Sorry. More globally, we have in the general population 33% of women who are entrepreneurs. So 67% of them are men. So there's an issue to address there. And more generally, women are mostly represented in low value-added sectors like care sectors, health, textiles. And those sectors tends to generate less income and less durability.
So I just wanted to tell you how we deal with the entrepreneurship public policies in France. I guess it's not very original, and that I understand that most countries do the same. So I would say it sums up into three main axes, which are spreading what we call in French the esprit d'entreprendre towards pupils in school, but also, of course, students, job seekers. We also have programs to train, coach, mentor entrepreneurs and help them build their network. And also we have a whole system to fund projects. It can be grants, it can be loans, including zero interest loans. So in France, presently we don't have a specific policy targeted to young women, but we have specific programs for the youth, for students, and for women.
Yes, so as Soline said, we have a wide range of policies to support entrepreneurship. Not all of them are targeting a particular segment of the entrepreneurial population. However, these initiatives, which are not targeted at women, do have a significant impact on supporting female entrepreneurship, since they, of course, incorporate the gender issue. But still, we have some tools or policies at our disposal to focus on women. And the top priorities of those policies are, firstly, to increase the proportion of women amongst entrepreneurs. The government would like to end up with 40% of entrepreneurs as women. The second main goal is to facilitate the access to funding for women-led projects. The third goal is to fight against gender bias and stereotypes. And lastly, the government aims at promoting professional diversity and increasing the proportion of women-led companies in high-value sectors like green or digital transition. I'm going to introduce you the main policy we have to implement and develop feminine entrepreneurship. One of them is the master agreement we have with BPI France, which is France's public investment bank. We have the government has a partnership with this bank to facilitate the accompaniment of women who want to initiate or take back a business, with a focus on the precarious territories, but also on the youth. One other goal is also to increase the fundings of the projects led by women and to fight against bias and stereotypes. This master agreement is also co-signed, it was important, by two big banking groups in France. It's the slide just after. Those two banking groups being BNP Paribas and Les Caisses d'Épargne. It was important for us to have the banking sectors on our side. And this text, this master agreement, is also co-signed and declined regionally by the government's network in region, but also by BPI France locally, and also by the regional councils.
We also have a big master plan for gender equality. It was launched by our Prime Minister, Elisabeth Borne, in March this year. And it's a very a comprehensive plan addressing a lot of issues concerning women, such as health, violence, and also professional equality, and also entrepreneurship. And in this plan, our two ministries collaborate, and that's how we get to work together with Claire. So I'm gonna quote some of the actions that are implemented in this plan. So there's a yearly barometer of a woman entrepreneurship. So publishing a barometer doesn't change the reality in itself, but it also it helps to for policymakers, for all the actors to really know what the situation is. And also the idea in this barometer is not only to give some figures, but also to explain and to try to understand some phenomena. So the first one will be released at the end of this year. Then also we want to reinforce communication about tax deductions for business networks membership fees, because we know, I mean, it's the case in France, and it was very interesting when Reba talked about it. But we know that in France, women participate less in business clubs, and so and we know that a lot of things happen in this business club. So we want women to be more part of it. So we want to really target communication for them, so that they know that the fees can be deducted from their taxes basis. We are working currently, it's not ready yet, but we are working on an online mentoring program for female entrepreneurs. We also want to work on female business acquirers. So I was really interested in what Maria said, and I was really impressed as well. So I was impressed by all the presentations. So it's typically this kind of situation that is very interesting for us in this regard. Also, we work on banking and financial coaching, and we work with our national bank, Banque de France, which builds online contents to train people about personal finance, but also business. And so we are currently writing the script of future videos. And I just wanted to tell Ariba that when we started writing the script, we work with the National Federation of all the banking sector in France. And then the script said something about the banker asking the female entrepreneur whether they should wait for her husband to come to join the meeting. And the bankers were really mad that this was written, because they were sort of shocked and offended that it was the image that the people could have from the bank. But you're showing us, Ariba, even if it was 15 years ago, if I heard you well. But still, these questions are not old, so it's good to keep them in mind. But so we are currently working on a series of videos about financial and banking coaching for women. But it's not as if women needed more training than men, but the main character is a woman. So, but we also hope that it will help also male entrepreneurs, of course. And we are also working on a self-assessment and of entrepreneurial skills. So that's what is in our big pot right now. It's all new from this year, so we're working on it.
I wanted it's the next slide, to introduce you with the policies we have regarding education. And maybe in the first place, I wanted to, I think it's Ariba again, who pointed out in a very relevant way the representation of women in the media and their place as role models. So I wanted to say that the Gender Equality Ministry is trying to improve the representation of women in the media and in the society. And we signed a charter with the Ministry of Culture and with the biggest media firms in France to improve the place of women in the medias, and then with the experts, and then to improve their place as role models. So we are trying to work on that, and also in a broad spectrum, we are working at the youngest age. Within the education field, one tool we have is the interministerial agreement for equality between girls and boys in the education system. We know that the development of women's entrepreneurship is still hampered by social representations and gender stereotypes. So we need to deconstruct those stereotypes, which are rooted from childhood, and then to enable women to take their place in all the sectors of the economy. As the government, we are trying to take actions at all key moments in life, and it starts at the youngest age. So we put in place this interministerial agreement since 2013, and it is co-signed and supported by the Gender Equality Ministry, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Higher Education and Research, and finally the Ministry of Agriculture. And this agreement has two priority objectives, which are to build and implement a culture of gender equality, and to reinforce education in mutual respect and equality between girls and boys, and also to commit to greater gender diversity in training courses and at all levels of study.
Yeah, I just a very quick presentation about what we do for pupils. I mean, it's not it's indifferently for girls and boys, but what I was telling you about our national bank implementing a program of education for all the population. So at school, there's a specific action for 8th graders called the EducFi passport, and from this year on, every pupil in every junior high in France will pass this EducFi passport. And the idea is really to empower people in the financial department, be it for personal or professional finance, of course. So to continue in the educational field, in France we have two main actions to foster student entrepreneurship. The first one is PEPITS. So it's an acronym in French, which means Student Hubs for Innovation, Transfer, and Entrepreneurship. So it was created in 2014. We have 33 in them all over France. And the mission is to strengthen the entrepreneurial culture and innovation in higher education by implementing awareness raising, training, and by supporting actions. These hubs foster connections between students and young graduates, business creation projects with companies, and also they support and they finance this structure. And we also have the student entrepreneur status. It's the next slide. So it enables students to develop an entrepreneurial project as part of their high education journey with adequate supervision and support. So the student can apply if they have graduated from baccalaureate. It's A level in France. It's your last high school degree, or the one that allows you to go to higher education, and if they have the ambition to create or to resume an activity. And really quickly, what the status is made of. So it's there's a first support and double mentoring by both a teacher and an external tutor, an entrepreneur or a professional. Also, there's the networking with all the 33 hubs in France. There are co-working spaces, and also there are some schedule optimizations and some ECTS equivalences to really allow them to dedicate some time for their business projects. They can also substitute internships by the time that they dedicate to their projects. They also get some legal support, some scholarships, and some funding.
Finally, and very briefly, to ensure feminine entrepreneurship, the French government has partnerships with the associations that are working on the field of entrepreneurship. We have several conventions with many associations, and the government is giving them subsidies to develop their projects and programs, which are specifically dedicated to women. For example, we have a partnership with the association 100 000 Entrepreneurs for the organization of the week of sensitization of the youth towards women entrepreneurship. This is an annual project that is organized toward the youth and in partnerships with the Education Ministry, and it takes place in schools and high schools every year in March.
And excuse me, Claire, but I think it's really it can be related to Ariba was saying about having a female entrepreneur coming to classes. So that's exactly what it is.
Exactly, with the students and the pupils. We also have partnerships, for example, with France Active, who develops a woman equality guarantee, which is a dispositive, a tool that is guaranteeing bank loans to women. And we also have, of course, a partnership with the Association Les Premières for their regional incubators project. It will be presented later on. So I think, yes,
Yeah, that's all we have for you today.
Well, great. Thank you very much. That was quite comprehensive. There's a lot happening in France. So we've got about a minute if there are any questions from the participants. I'm going to just pause a moment, see if any hands go up. Otherwise, what we can do is we can go to the break and we can pick up these points again after the break, because we're going to go into case study sessions, and one of the case studies is from France. And so perhaps we can pick up these points again during the breakouts and make connections with the case studies. So no hands have gone up. We'll pick it up after the break. So thank you very much to both of you, Solène and Claire, for that overview. There's a lot happening. It's great to see all of these initiatives for young people and for young women. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. So you can step away from your computer, go for a little stretch, get a coffee, and we will see you all back at 3:45 for those of you in the Central Time Zone. And Helen will explain to us how we're going to do the breakouts when we get back. So thanks again, and thanks to the panel in the first session. See you in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
To where I'm talking from. I don't want to enter too much into these slides because I don't have time. My job is to conduct ethnographic studies. So I serve as the head of program And meantime, what I do, I note, and I'm taking notes with my team. So we are a team of 28 researchers operating in 8 countries. And of course, I will here just only display the case of France. So just for those who want to learn more, we are located in Lebanon, and our greatest challenge for the time being is to go to Guyana as well. So for us, from a theoretical lens, we do assume that, okay, beside young women entrepreneurs, we have context. Context is what? Is depending of who you are, you want to do entrepreneurship differently, depending especially on your education. What, of course, you do create impacts. So if you are to operate like our colleagues just mentioned, they're in the deep tech. If you are in the deep tech, it's not the same story as if you are to create your coaching venture. The when does matter, of course. If you do create during the COVID, it's not the same as if you were to create in the early years of this millennium, when we had lots of fundraising and the idea to generate startups, etc., where also impacts. And of course, how is the condition, is the result of the who, the what, the when, and the where. So that's why here we have. So just to share my experience, we are located in the southern part of France, especially close to Lyon, in a very big region that goes from Clermont-Ferrand, so we are in the mountain, and to Grenoble, and we are in the Alps. So we are dealing with 2 types of mountains in France, basically. In the logo, you can see Les Premières. So we are operating, and we did partner with Les Premières. Les Premières developed a fantastic program, if I may. The program can be developed and split into 3 parts. The first one is a START program. It's a 3-day program in which we try to empower young women. Most of the time, they are quite young. I mean, below 30 years old. And their job is to, is entrepreneurship for me? Let me test my first speech, let me test my first business plan, or let me share my idea. Then you enter the GO program. The GO program lasts 8 months, and then the BOOST program just to raise fundings. We have a kind of pedagogical process that is, so we work through cohorts, and we used to mix any kind of women from deprived economic zones, women from rural zones, women from very wealthy entrepreneurial ecosystems, such as in Lyon, or women in wealthy deep tech ecosystems, such as in Grenoble, women in healthy districts, such as the center of Clermont-Ferrand. So we have a cohort that used to gather all these women alike, considering that, okay, whatever your age, whatever your profile, whatever your social capital, let's empower you and let's see what happens. So we provide courses, networks, and mentoring. So most of the time, because we have a huge distance, we are dealing with an online teaching process. And of course, because we do assume that in every places, you have specific bankers, you have specific coaches, you have specific trainers, specificities. We provide individual coachings that are face-to-face and local. So what we found, just to bring into to go to the conclusion directly, well, we have 3 types of women who follow the same entrepreneurial program, but beyond, once again, beyond women, the generic term women, well, we make the difference. So we make the difference from women from deprived economic zones who do entrepreneurship differently and who act differently while accepting the program. We have group 2, women from urban economic zones, such as in Lyon, and group 3 from women in tech clusters. So let's happen what we have. So if you go to group 1, so I was just illustrating and mentioning that we conduct the research during 3 years. So now the research is done, but we worked a little bit on the topic. In group 1, So we are in Villeneuve. Villeneuve is a very poor economic zone located in Grenoble. And what we did observe is while integrating the program, women at a very young, even though while being young, they already have a super interesting entrepreneurial experience because of this. This is an iPhone, this is my phone. And because of things, because they got connected to WhatsApp, to whatever, and they already had a strong learning entrepreneurial experience observing girls through TikTok, through and international girls. So most of the time we are dealing with very low educated girls with a strong working experience and entrepreneurial experience, legal and unfortunately, if I may, sometimes completely illegal. And when they are to receive the program and to enter the program, they already started their company as a self-employed person, and their revenues, the average revenues is 70,000 euros a year. So the question for us is, what could we teach them for becoming an entrepreneur? So our idea is for us to make them transform their self-employment into a company that could provide jobs for other people in their district. However, the results, not too positive, if I may. They claim to be different. So they are claiming for the different. I have different stories than you have. I'm different. So they claim to be different. And we often observe clashes between them and their coaches and their mentors. So it's not very easy for us to make them work again together. And they start doing entrepreneurship by putting themselves on stage in social medias. Hey, look at me, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not anyone. So it is a matter of identity. What we get is most of the time, these women, at the end of the program, well, to be honest, they carry on with an organic entrepreneurial growth. They still have their very successful self-employed business. Sometimes they recruit 1 or 2 persons maximum, but not more, unfortunately. So keep just that in time. The question is how to teach and what to teach them, since we are facing a direct competition, which are these influencers. Second results is we are doing with young women in West CS zone. So we are in the district of Grenoble. Here you can see the district of Championnet. It's a kind of Bobo district, let's say, where it's people, organic growth. They like to go to the nature. If they got time, they invest everything for the mountain. And this girl, let's call her Miriam. She created something which is, well, the case of 2 young girls who created low-tech entrepreneurial low-tech entrepreneurship, meaning transportation does matter. We are dealing with nature olive oil from Tunisia, a biologic oil. We are dealing with something which is not as low-tech for the health, but we are dealing with mirrors, connected mirrors, just if you want to train yourself with your body. So it could be low-tech, but not necessary. What we find is finance is key. So as they invested everything, by all their pocket money is gone, the love money is gone into the business, but they face trouble entering and getting more money, despite the fact they win all contests. Every time there is a contest in Grenoble, they win it. They are considered as to be the stars, but finance is key. And finally, no finance. So they carry on. One is trying to get a small job. She's teaching, and then she's working part-time for a business and part-time for a job. And the other decided to become self-employed. She's good at coding, so she teaches students how to code. It's a pity. So it's a good, a bad story meantime. So they live by their own, but we are facing a kind of some difficulties. And the third one is doing gender while entrepreneuring. So maybe we find lots of similarities with the case we heard just before the break. A woman belonging to the tech cluster, she's an engineer, she's a super good communicator. She started to do something, and when it's time to raise fundings, she faced super interesting interest from bankers. But when it's time to welcome new partners, okay, she pitches once, 2 times, 3 times, 6 times. And at the end, she said, okay, maybe do you want to enter your business or not? And investors claim she's an hysteric girl. So, you know, hysteria is traditionally a sickness which is traditionally associated to women. So she says, okay, no. And finally, the investor called her partner. The business partner is a male, and said, okay, we love the idea, we like you, but we don't like the girl. So please carry on with the business and try to get rid of with the founder, who's a girl. So now she succeeds, and she succeeds thanks to the network, the female working network, to attract funders. And she did a super good fundraising. The first one equal 1 million euros last July. So this is a very good deal to carry on. So by doing this, I hope I convince you that context does matter. You do not you cannot do entrepreneurship depending of where you are and where you do come from. So my motto is, okay, coaching young women, definitely, yes, for sure. But please, policymakers, try to take care of the context. Working and developing your business when you come from a deprived economic zone has nothing to do with when you are coaching women in the deep tech. Thank you for your attention. I don't know if we have time for question, Helen?
We do. We have about 15 minutes left, so we have plenty of time for questions and discussion.
Oh, I go too fast? I went too fast, maybe, Helen. I'm sorry. You told me that
no
to rush.
problem. No problem. Are there anyone have a question or a comment on the presentation? Don't see any hands. Let me check the chat. Feel free to just unmute yourself. We're a small group, so shouldn't be too hard.
Maybe I have Julien, you have a question.
There we go.
Yes, thank you, Séverine. It was very, very interesting. So indeed, I'm sensitive to what you explained, that it's the context matters, and it is very different to accompany a young woman from a deprived economic area compared to another one in a high tech or a tech cluster. This division, this context analysis you make, is it heard by the one that are now designing the support programs? Is it really now taken into account? Or probably you mentioned it, I skipped it, but how does your analysis is reflected in support programs that are taking place in your area?
Well, I don't know if I can reply your question, but you will tell me. What we did is, of course, when you are partnering with Les Premières, or when I do partner with BNP Paribas or whatever, my job is to reflect and to make my the network I do serve think with me, and if they do agree or not. So what we did, and what we've all agreed on the fact that we need to differentiate persons. but to what extent? Because the trickiest problem is, if I take the case of the deprived economic zone, women live in their own institutional path, meaning that they trust more local and informal institutions than formal institutions, to be honest. So in that case, our job is to make them quit, because there is a market inside in these zones. There is a huge market and there is money. But if you want women to make them voice heard and to quit their place, or to live as they want, basically, they need to quit. So we make them quit the place, and physically we oblige them to meet in another district from Grenoble. So what we do in that respect, we try to make them meet women from different contexts, whatever, because we all live in society, and we do assume that an entrepreneurial market is also part of society. And in that respect, it's very complex for her, because the biggest concern they face is their roots, and the roots is the family-in-law, the cousins, the sister of the sister, the brother of the sister, etc., etc., etc. That tends to trap them and say, okay, it's a bit dangerous if you quit this district. So this is the key limits we have. And we succeed, thanks to Les Premières, the face-to-face and the online, the combination of this hybrid coaching system. The face-to-face system was super interesting to make them quit their place. And the hybrid, the Zoom system, training program, the online training program, is super interesting, because behind the screen, we are all equal. So meaning you have the women who has their kids, but this is okay. We cannot see the kids. And as long as the women quiet, there is no problem. Women tend to, in France, there is a huge debate of how you could wear your clothing style, etc. So especially for women, so especially for Muslim women. So when they quit their scarf, I'm sorry, I don't have the English for that. They're okay, because they are at home. So all women are equal. And in that respect, they tend to know each other. And when we met in Paris, it was easier because they knew each other before. So it's a way to gather. So in a way, context has to be taken into consideration, but in other way, you cannot go too much and said, okay, this is a training program for this kind of context. This is a training program for that kind of context. Otherwise, there is no more society.
Thank you. Very good answer. Thank you.
Hélène, do I have time for a question or not?
Yes, we still have a little bit of time for questions.
Because I would like to get the opinion from maybe Claire, because Claire, you mentioned that you were financing Les Premières. I don't know if it's you directly and if you are in charge of that, of course. So apologize in advance. But maybe I would like to get your reaction. Did you know about these types of concepts or context? Do you care about this, or is it a matter I don't know. I would like to know your insight.
Yes, so we are directly having a partnership with Les Premières and giving them subsidies, but only for the incubators project. So I didn't know they were conducting with you studies on the context, and so I was really glad to attend today, and I will get in touch with you maybe later on to have all the conclusions of your studies, because we don't have in our spectrum what you're dealing with, and taking the context in the public policies we are developing. So I think it's a really interesting approach, and I will definitely get in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions about Séverine's presentation, or even perhaps the presentation from Claire before the break, in terms of France's approach to supporting women entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs? I'm curious, maybe both of you could answer this, is I found that France takes a very regional approach in terms of its PEPIT network and allowing for regional adaptations to kind of take into consideration the various contexts. Have you found that this has been helpful? Are there certain regions that are outperforming others just because there's more interest in entrepreneurship, or do you find that across the board there's a consistent level of curiosity or young people pursuing entrepreneurship in France?
Maybe there is a bias, Hélène. I don't know, maybe, Claire, maybe you want to start. Please go ahead.
No, yeah, I just wanted to say that according to the subsidiarity principle, we are always attentive to see our public policies declined locally, to be as close as possible as to the beneficiaries. So all the tools we have, we want to see them declined regionally, also with the local executives and the network we have in the regions, to trust the people that are on site, to implement the tools exactly the way they want and the way they think is the most relevant in their territories. So we don't only want to take decision in Paris and not to be able to decline them. So it's really important, and we are having partnerships with a lot of associations that are nationals, but it's really important for us that all those associations have a network throughout France and our ultramarines territory also, not just the metropole. So we are really, yes, taking this into consideration.
Yeah, I should have given a little context, is that I did a master's program in Nancy, and the PEPIT, the PEAL in Nancy is very active. You know, there's been like 500 startups from young people. So I was very biased in my perspective because it was everywhere. You know, they had innovation hubs on 3 different campuses across the city. So very impressive, at least here in the Grand Est. Sorry to cut you off, Séverine.
No problem. But maybe we are all a bit biased in this round table, because if I may, we are more or less all the same in a sense, pretty well educated. So we all talk about and refer to master degree programs, etc. And that since the beginning of the millennium, everywhere in the world, even in Afghanistan, there has been a strong pressure and political insight to promote entrepreneurship. Maybe because of the OECD report from 2004 about innovation and how to foster innovation among countries. So there is a way to better justify our innovation courses and then our entrepreneurial courses. And besides, you had lots of big companies such as Google, who that widespread all over the world, the famous pitch, the Google Startup Weekends. Then we have the business model canvas, very global tools that has been promoted among students, and mostly speaking, students in management sciences, in economic sciences, and in engineering. But besides, what I find very interesting is in deprived economic zones, or in when you have less educated persons, or sometimes you have well-educated. It's a bit complex in these districts. But in these places, you have persons who have access now to internet, of course, and who get their information from lots of influencers. And influencers, sometimes they have good they provide fake news, yes, but sometimes they do convey very good feedbacks, and this is a way to convey mentoring tips, entrepreneurial tips, etc. So it's like if we were dealing with two different institutional fields, you know, the formal one, I'm part of this formal one, and the maybe younger one, coming where you have less, you know, walls between across places. And maybe we are facing a kind of generation issue because we are dealing with young women entrepreneurship programs. But, you know, my teenagers, I'm a mother, and my teenagers, when they are 12 and they are dealing with women entrepreneurship or things like this, they are on YouTube. They are not by the French Tech, you know. So my question for me as an old scholar, I'm almost 50, is how to catch up with that and how to be present in this podcast and just to talk to these young children. And this is a current debate we have by Les Premières, and how to renew yourself to be capable of talking to young generation.
I may add, it's complicated for me to talk about this project because it's a project that is led by Solène and her team and the economics ministry, but they are developing with the Banque de France, which is the national bank, and the federal national bank system in France, some videos on YouTube for financial education and the development of entrepreneurship. So they try to reach the youngest and or less young, of course, but to be on the social medias and especially on YouTube to create pedagogic content, which is kind of also funny. Maybe I can put the link, well, it's in French, but maybe I can put the link in the conversation. But they're trying. So of course, Séverine, it's really important to be represented on the social medias and to create some pedagogy content.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for both of your contributions. We are going to switch groups now. I see the timer has run out. So thank you again, Séverine, for your presentation. And we will be back in the breakout session shortly for the second round. Welcome back, everyone. We're just switching breakout rooms for the second round. So hold on.
Okay, we're here again.
One second. Looks like a few more people are joining and then we'll head back in.
Helen, I had a problem with the presentation, so could you upload it for me, please?
Yes, I will do
Could
that.
you sweep up the slides? I will tell you when we go to the next one, because I can't click on the file.
Okay, I can share. Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to. And you should now see the option to go back into the breakout rooms. There we go. Okay, welcome back everyone for round 2 of the small group presentations. So we will now hear from Amona, who is a YEPA member from Bulgaria, and about the network she created and runs. So I'll hand the floor over to you, Amona. And let me share my screen. Sorry.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I have a presentation.
In the meantime, thank you for the opportunity to represent our community.
Can you see the screen now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. My name is Simona, and I will present to you our network for women's entrepreneurship in Bulgaria, business on high heels. Please, the next slide. The agenda. Yes. I will cover the following aspects about the community, who we are, who exactly young ladies in business are. I will introduce our management team, our main activities, events and projects, some of the most common challenges for women entrepreneurs in Bulgaria, according to our club members, how we support them, of course, and finally you will meet actually, you met them already, the wonderful young ladies from our group, and they will tell you more about themselves and, of course, what they think about their membership in our network. The next one, please. About the community. Founder of the whole network 7 years ago, Business on High Heels, is Eva Vladimirova. That amazing woman you see in the photo, she is an entrepreneur with many years of experience. She managed hotels and travel agencies for over 10 years. Then she was a director in a financial company. But above all, she's also my mother. So basically, we are an example of how successfully two generations can work together. More about the network. The network unites women with business and young ladies with a business idea or with a startup business, providing them with an environment in which, through constant contact with each other, cooperation, partnership, and sharing, they're stimulated to develop both business and personality. And the main purpose of Business on High Heels is to utilize the greatest natural resource shared by all business women, exactly other women in business. The club is focused on bringing together women at all levels of business to share the common goal of success. The next one, please. Now I will introduce myself briefly. I'm a psychologist by education, and before that I sang classical music all over the world for 12 years. I also studied in Germany, but I decided to continue my personal and business development in Bulgaria and help young people develop their potential and work for the development of our homeland. I believe that every country needs its young entrepreneurs, and it's really important to stimulate and support young people. The Young Ladies in Business Club was created 3 years ago with the mission of attracting and inspiring young ladies who still want to start the path of entrepreneurship but don't know how. They don't have the right environment, mentors, and role models to support and navigate them. In this way, by bringing the two clubs together, we have created an extraordinary connection between generations, allowing the younger ones to learn from the more experienced ladies and the more experienced ones to benefit from the innovative and technological thinking that the young ladies have. On the next slide, you will see our management team. Of course, behind every successful business stands an inspiring team that helps develop it and shares the same values. Each of these amazing ladies contributes their experience and contacts to the development of our network, to the organization of events, and to our participation in different conferences. As you can see, we have a lawyer, we have doctor, we have a PR specialist, digital marketing specialist. And each of them is really amazing. Okay, let's go to the main activities. the most important aspects of the life of women entrepreneurs are included in the main groups of activities, such as starting and developing a business, creating contacts. This is very, very important. We say that creating contacts is one of the most important things in business. During our monthly networking meetings and events, our members have the opportunity to meet and get to know each other in person, to discuss ideas and opportunities for cooperation, and to share with each other things in life that excite them. Of course, we have trainings, as I already said, on how to start and develop business, digital marketing, psychology, soft skills, personal development, informal leadership, partnerships, advertising opportunities, presentation skills, and of course, culture and lifestyle. These kind of events include like wine workshops with wine tastings, cooking classes with local and international celebrities, basically classes on everything we have secretly wanted as women to try, but never dared. Rest and sports, travels, for example, walks in nature. We organize sea vacations every summer, relaxing beauty treatments, and much more. Seminars and lectures. The seminar activities are in the form of useful topics for business, health, and beauty. Seminars on household, family, children, men, women, and everything that attracts our interest and needs. The speakers are leading specialists in their field, and the events are held in the form of discussions and speeches. And of course, we also offer the opportunity to participate in sport events, including golf lessons, horse riding, Pilates, yoga, and dance, and others. We also organize and attend exhibitions, fashion shows, musical evenings, presentation of interesting books, and everything that our female nature desires. And all these events are included in a calendar of events presenting the program for each month. And all these skill building opportunities are actually transforming women's confidence and capabilities in business. On the next slide, we have different kinds of campaigns and marketing tools. For example, Women's Expo by women for women, to show their products and services and to meet customers in person. Boxer Prize. This is an online marketing tool where for a short time, in a certain period, within a month, we give everyone the opportunity to show their special business offers. In this way, we attract a new audience and present their products and services. This is we're doing this usually around holidays and to have an occasion. Awards. Through the awards, we aim to recognize the work and achievements of women entrepreneurs, as well as to raise their spirit and self-esteem, to prove that every woman is beautiful and successful, because we as women are very self-critical and often underestimate ourselves. So the idea of the awards is to support and encourage them. Charity campaigns. We as mothers, wives, daughters are empathetic, and since quite a few ladies in the club have charity work, we support them, but we also organize our own. For example, we supported children with autism and planted trees with the mission for cleaner air in the capital city. We have also our national campaign called I'm Proud to be Bulgarian, where we unite women who are proud of their nationality, and we do various initiatives. We did, for example, the so-called first national dance on high heels, to declare our position against domestic violence. And in this way, we also raise national self-awareness and maintain the spirit of the Bulgarian. Yes, Business and Lifestyle TV. We have online television. It's a YouTube channel and also brand section called The Face Behind the Brand. Another marketing tool we created during COVID so that we can cover everything happening in the club online, and so that the ladies from all over the country can be motivated by the interviews with the ladies. And also, of course, we upload there a lot of training webinars with different topics. In the Kitchen of Hills, another project that aims to unite women by cooking together, and in another form to promote their businesses and show them in a different light. And of course, business and motherhood hand in hand. Through lectures and meetings, we inspire young people not to worry about combining one role with the other, as we observe the trend that many young people are afraid to become mothers until they develop a business, or the opposite. So we also partner with various medical facilities that inform them more about this topic. And let's go to the next slide, challenges for women entrepreneurs. As we already mentioned in the first part in the session, we experience similar challenges, but I will list the ones that ladies in the club share most often. Of course, accessing funding, struggling to be taken seriously and owning their accomplishments. Here in the meaning that very often ladies hear about themselves that their success is due to someone else, to some sponsor or a man, which is really insulting, and this affects really their self-confidence and business development. I was gonna say something in German. Of course, balancing business and family life. Entrepreneurs who are parents have dual responsibilities to their businesses and their families, and finding ways to devote time to both is really, really difficult and challenging. Fear of failure. We often think that we must meet every criteria before we bid on a project. We try hard not to make mistakes because we were raised to strive for perfection. We question and second guess every step along the way. So yeah, the fear of failure. Delegation. Women entrepreneurs have a problem delegating because they have personalized the business so much that they believe no one can do anything as well or better than they can. But actually, when we accept the fact that we cannot control everything in life and in business, delegating becomes easier, and it's critical to not waste our time on tasks that others can handle, so that we can concentrate our strategy development and other activities. And of course, lack of confidence, as I already mentioned, and missing role models. And now, how we support women entrepreneurs. I already explained. Our community serves as a supportive place for women entrepreneurs, providing them with an environment where they can support each other and learn together. The advantages of networking are many, but the most important are the sharing of experiences, insights, and resources that help women entrepreneurs to be more confident together. So connecting with other female entrepreneurs is really a great way to develop a strong support system. Great business collaborations and partnerships are also created in our community. We have ladies who met in the club and started business together.
Also, all these marketing tools I listed a moment ago help ladies position themselves in the business place and reach potential customers. And also we offer the ladies an opportunity for online advertising and for media appearances and interviews, which is another way to take them to the next level of business. And now I have the pleasure to introduce you two of our young ladies in business who will tell you more about their businesses and how the community on High Heels is helping them grow. On the next slide, you will see Maria Sivkova. Maria, please join and tell us more about your membership.
Thank you, Emona. I already introduced myself, and I think I told you enough about my challenges and the company I own. I'm going to tell you a bit more about the experience in the club from the very beginning. I think that I'm one of the first members of the club. I joined a few months after Emona established the Young Ladies in Business. It was in September 2021. Back then, I was just working in Conversion Century. I was doing my digital marketing job there, but on the other side, I was developing a jewelry brand, and this was the business with which I actually entered the club. I went through most of the challenges that Emona mentioned in the presentation, and I'm really thankful for all the club members, especially the more experienced women that really motivated me to buy the company, to continue doing the SEO part, to develop my leadership skills, and just to enter the business sphere faster, because I really needed to be in touch with a woman that already developed something. And I'm really, really thankful for all the women part of the club that helped me during my path. And also like leaving the mentoring and the development part of the club, I'm really thankful on a personal level, because I'm gonna share the story again here, but I'm really thankful about that. When I shared the ladies that I'm having bank problems and I really need to take a loan in order to buy the company and everything that I explained in the previous part, Emona urged everyone from the club to buy from the jewelry brand and from the accessories and everything I was selling, in order to help me sponsor the acquisition of the company. And on a personal level, it really, really motivated me and helped me continue with the jewelry brand and the digital part of my career. So yeah, I went through a lot, but during all the time I was part, and I'm part of the club, attending different events, developing myself. So I'm really like proud to be a member of the club, and really thankful, especially to Emona, because she's really, she's becoming a friend with all the ladies in the club and really helping them on a personal level. So yeah, that was the main. Yeah, thank you.
Actually, I didn't mention anything about friendship. Could you tell that you found also friendships and
yeah, actually this was a significant part for me as well, because I'm not born in Sofia, in the capital of Bulgaria. I'm from a small town near the capital, and when I moved in September 2021 to Sofia, I had no friends, I had no connections, and actually joining the club helped me find through friendships that I'm continuing keeping in touch with all the ladies I initially met there. So it really helped me with the moving process and not feeling alone, lost in the big city and all the things everyone experiences during such change. So yeah, I think that if the club wasn't there, I would not be able to establish like my life in the capital. So yeah, friendship is a big part of that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. I think this is also very important also in the business field, the friendships. Okay, Yasmin, would you like to share something? I would be very grateful.
Yes, thank you, Mona. So you were just talking about the friendship, so I can start with that as well. I joined the club 1.5 years ago after just moving actually back to Sofia after COVID. So I also didn't have the right environment back there. I didn't have many friends or a lot of people who would support me in the place where I live. So in the club, I also found the right environment to thrive, also the connections, the friendships, as the ladies mentioned. And for me, that has been very useful to be in such an environment. Since I've joined the club 1.5 years ago, we've been together with Emona too. We've been on the television together. We've been on different events together. So we have this chance to promote ourselves, to promote our business, to grow our personal skills, and as well to develop professionally. So since I've joined the club. I have started my second business as well. You can see the logo below. It's a subscription book box by Jasmine, which is a subscription book box, which I developed simultaneously together with my other project. So I think that what the club gives us is the right environment to thrive, the right environment to make new connections with the right people, to talk about business, to talk about all the things that we are concerned about, and to find support and really feel appreciated and valued and supported in our path in entrepreneurship, but also personally, on a personal level, we feel valued and appreciated in the club. So I'm very thankful for having this opportunity to meet all the people in the club, for all the support that I'm getting, and the chance to get out of the box, to experience new things, to broaden my horizon in some way, and to grow, to evolve together with the other ladies in business. So thank you, Mona, and thanks to all the ladies in the club.
Yeah, thank you, girls. Thank you, Yasmin, and thank you, everyone, for your attention. Of course, you can connect with us through all social networks. I will be happy to hear more about you. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you so much, Amona, Yasmin, and Maria. It was great to hear about the network and all the wonderful benefits that come with it. In our work, we talk a lot about the importance of networks, connections, role models, and mentors, especially for young entrepreneurs and young women entrepreneurs. So it's great to see it in practice and how you're implementing various approaches, which I think is great to have a mix of different types of events and a different way to connect. And I love the creativity that you brought to coming up with those seminars and points. So we have about 1 minute for questions. Does anyone have a question? If not, we'll go back to the main room. Any hands? Okay. Well then, thank you again for your presentation, and we will all come back together now. So I'll go ahead and close the room. Welcome back to the main room. It looks like the other group is still making their way from the breakout rooms. Should be joining us shortly. Great, it looks like we are all back together. So without further ado, I'll pass the floor to Julien for our closing remarks.
Many thanks, Hélène. I think it was a very, very fruitful YEPA session. As always, I've learned a lot. As David said, well, especially him and you are expert in women entrepreneurship. I'm reading on it for now several years, but it was very nice to see that the issue we are describing in our analysis are actually real issue, and that we could put face on these issues and see people trying to make their way, women trying to make their way through entrepreneurship. So this really is existing, and the issue are existing, and overcoming is possible, and that brings nice results. I've learned a lot about France, which it seems that a lot is happening in France. Le Pays de Marianne, probably it's not random, but I would be happy to learn what is happening in other countries, and for that I will read again the Missing Entrepreneur report that will be issued at the end of November. Yes, it was really refreshing for me, really interesting to see all these nice testimonies. I note that indeed women should probably more invest sectors that are so-called high value added sectors, whereas they tend to invest in low value added sector like care. But it's for me a wrong way of seeing it. Of course, I'm happy that women engage in technique and other sectors, but sectors like care are actually very high value added, but human value. And for me, we should reconsider this sector as being very important, probably more, valued, because it's quite crucial. Next session will be about social economy. I mean, about the YEPA around February. It has some connection with women entrepreneurship, because they tend to be also very invested in social economy. And then I will happy to see this group and the others in our next session, YEPA session in February around social entrepreneurship. Many thanks to all the speakers, to all the panelists, to you and David for the excellent discussion note, and for all the preparation of this workshop of today. Over to you and David. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I won't take up too much more of your time. I echo Julien's words as well. Thank you to all of our panelists and case study speakers. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. It was really engaging, the presentations and the takeaway messages. I loved the overall enthusiasm and the positive examples that we got to see and hear from the diverse group of young women entrepreneurs that were here with us today. So without repeating too much of Julien, we will be hosting the workshop 3 in the new year in 2024. You will receive communications from us shortly about voting for your preferences, just like we did last time. So keep your eye out for the revised discussion notes as well as the survey. You can also find all of the resources, the presentations, the discussion note, all of that on our website at yepa-hub.org. So thank you again and have a great afternoon.